Hello, everybody, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you're listening in to us, listening in on us. It's a pleasure again to reach out to you from the Human Intelligent Workplace, and in particular, our podcast of Human Intelligent Dialogue. As you all know, I'm always talking to people from a variety of perspectives, and in this particular one, since it happens to be Veterans Day, I'm speaking to someone, both of us veterans, that's doing a lot of work in helping veterans transition. Barron and I talked a little bit about, some of those transitions, what's changed and what hasn't changed from when I got out versus when he got out, and others that are still transitioning out into the civilian world. But I want to particularly, as you all know, in my Human Intelligent Dialogue, I talk about what are the human capital issues at play? How can organizations position themselves for the future going forward in the era of AI and so much fast change taking place and so forth. So with that backdrop, I'd like to welcome Barron Mills to the podcast. Barron, welcome. I appreciate your time and so forth. And I don't like to introduce people. I'd like to let them give them a little bit of background of who you are. So Barron, why don't you take off and just let the audience know a little bit about you for those that don't know you.
Yeah, thank you, Edwin. Appreciate it very much being invited on here. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do it in a shorter form than I often do. So, uh, yeah, I mean, military service has been a big part of my life. My dad was career Army, so I grew up an Army brat, living in Germany, Idaho, Texas, Kansas, Missouri. Finished up in Virginia. I went to military college, the Virginia Military Institute, and I went seeking a commission. The whole reason I was going to get a degree was just so I could qualify to get a commission in the military, and ended up going the Marine Corps path. So I served 20 years in the Marines from 1996 to 2016. First half of the career, 10 years, I did what you expect to do when you sign up. I was an infantry officer and did multiple deployments, Mediterranean, Cuba, Haiti, a couple times to Iraq, once to Afghanistan. And then the last 10 years just ended up being basically a staff officer, making things run, learning how the Marine Corps worked, making sure we fit into the joint world and other things. And that's what brought me to Florida. Spent my last 5 years of my career in Florida. 2016, I retired. And this was when you're supposed to do this transition thing. And even though I landed a decent paying job doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing, it was terrible. I didn't enjoy it at all. I realized I really had done a bad job setting myself up for the transition, and then really gone through a number of iterations over the years to land where I kind of belong now. But in that time, I got smart, educated on all the different transition resources and programs that are out there, and took it on as a personal mission to help others avoid my own mistakes, to make sure that they're educated and taking advantage of them so that they can have a much smoother transition than I and so many others did, probably including yourself.
Oh yeah. As I mentioned to you, I was from a lifetime ago when it was BI or before internet. So I even had those obstacles in a way where at least today people have things like LinkedIn and other options and so forth to look at. So thank you for that. So based on where we are today, I mean, you shared with me your mission and so forth, where you are, where you've evolved to. What are some of the trends that you're seeing take place in organizations that may have implications for these veterans as they're transitioning into it? And what are the organizations may be looking for?
Yeah, so it's a mixed bag, and I think a lot of it depends on whether or not the organizations themselves have veterans or military spouses that are already in kind of key leadership positions to educate them and include them in. So you see some major Fortune 500 companies rolling out really good, robust veteran hiring programs, veteran leadership programs that take whether it's transition service members or veterans within their workforce, take them and put them on a good trajectory towards success and coming into the culture of the company. See a lot of small businesses, certainly those in the federal workspace, get contracting and stuff, leveraging veteran talent. One of the reasons is because a lot of veterans come out of the service with a security clearance in hand, and that right there helps out in a lot of ways. to plug them into the federal work. But I would say overall, like I do feel like it's a constant uphill battle to educate most employers on the value of hiring veterans and spouses and the means by which to go to do so and stuff. Like I always say, it's a two-way street, right? The veteran has to know about the company and vice versa, and routinely that's not happening, right? They're completely going in different directions and missing each other. So a lot of what I do tries to bring those streets together and make sure that those veterans and employers collide with each other and have the opportunity to know each other exist and find a path to bring them on board.
Yeah, Barron, to your point, I think you and I serve as a bridge for those individuals behind us because um, I, as one, having worked in HR and staffing for a while, particularly at Lockheed Martin, which is a big veteran proponent area. So any of you out there looking for jobs, I definitely would consider Lockheed Martins of the world and in that industry, in the space, and in addition to the federal government and other organizations out there. But you're right, they have to do the homework. The network is important. I just saw an event that's happening, I believe in Melbourne or something, coming up on the 4th for veterans, and there's going to be a bunch of companies there.
Yep.
So, we have an aging workforce, we have a growing multicultural workforce, and veterans bring some unique skills to the table. So what do you see as solutions or strategies for organizations that they might want to consider, and at the same time for these veterans that are looking for these opportunities?
Yeah, what I always suggest is don't try to start something brand new on your own. There's already, right, there's across the US, it's estimated there's over 40,000, maybe even higher now, veteran service organizations. Now, some of these are, right, your charitable organizations that are supporting mental health, homelessness, things like that. But a lot of these organizations are in the transition, the career readiness space, and they're doing great work, right? They've got either good programs established as far as like curriculum and content delivery, or they've got the connections in the community and so forth. So there's probably one of those or more of those going on in your area. Find those and leverage those instead of trying to create your own in-house system that's hard to sustain or hard to build and scale up and everything. That's like I feel confident. I mean, I do like saying I haven't created anything yet. I've been helping make everything else that exists out there better, I think. I think I'm gonna go off track from your question here a little bit, but just gonna go with what's in my head, right? So getting back to the two-way street thing, so networking. Networking is an element that, I mean, I'm sure even in the civilian workforce needs to be kind of harped on more and encouraged more. But in the military, it is not something that is well taught and certainly not encouraged. It does happen. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. Like I definitely, especially with LinkedIn now, you can see some members in the military taking advantage of it and starting to create their own personal brand and also help to highlight what their units are doing and what their overall service components are doing. But by and large, this idea of just going to an event and meeting people and striking up conversations and seeing what can happen, that's not typical and normal to most military members. So, and frankly, I think that a lot of them think it sounds like brown nosing, right? Like you're going and going to suck up to somebody. And you got to kind of, unfortunately, learn everything the hard way. And that's not what it is at all. So in the military, we talk about intelligence-driven operations. You should not go do anything unless some sorts of intelligence, whether it's SIGINTEL, human intel, geospatial stuff, like unless you've got something telling you that what you're going after is there or what the conditions are right for you to succeed and everything. And everybody that's well practiced knows human intelligence is usually the most accurate and timely of that. That is what networking is. And so that's where I need military folks to realize is like keep that military mindset. Networking is human intelligence. That's what you're doing. You're building your own human intelligence network that's going to help you make informed decisions so that you know which companies align with you best, which community organizations align with you best, who can help you get to the next stage you want to get into. Like I hear all the time folks saying, I've applied to 100 companies, 200 companies, no callbacks. And it's like, well yeah, like You're just probably one of thousands of resumes coming in and a sea of them, and you all sound good or capable. How are you supposed to stand out? You stand out through networking because people want to hire folks that they feel confident will do the job. And if a friend or a colleague says, I know so and so, you should look at them, they're going to take that and look at them and stuff. And so you need to become a known commodity, and you do that through networking. Other ways it pays off for you is like you see this perfect job, you're like, I got to go for it. And it turns out really the job it's just out there, but it's already being given to somebody else in the company as a promotion. So nobody actually has a chance at it, but the company is still required to post out there that this job's open, but it's only going to be up there for 3 days and go away because again, it's already promised to somebody. So if you have somebody on the inside telling you that, and you know not to waste your time doing that, and you're not going to come away from it thinking something's wrong with you because nothing's wrong with you. It's just that's not the way it's working. Another thing is sometimes there's a reason the job's open is because it's a brutal company or that the manager you'd be working for is just really tough. And if you've got somebody on the inside telling you what's going on, or if you used to be on the inside, you can avoid that headache as well and stuff. So I just cannot emphasize enough with veterans and spouses to get out there and network, build up, and you can't. It's another thing I always comment on is some of the military, especially for combat arms, we talk about when you give your operations order to go do things. We talk about logistics. You always mention chow, right? Food. And you say it's continuous, which means we don't have time to stop and make sure everybody gets fed. You're going to be issued your MREs, meals ready to eat. When you have the opportunity, put it in your mouth and consume it and keep going on with the mission. So that's on each individual to make sure they sustain themselves. It's the same thing with networking in the world of employment and even like for entrepreneurs and stuff. That's on you. You need to self-sustain yourself and continually keep networking and keep that network warm. Too many veterans, they go active on LinkedIn, they go to networking events, and then as soon as they get a job, they stop cold, and they don't keep showing up. They don't keep engaging. And then 6 months, a year, 2 years later, they say, hey guys, I lost my job. I need help. It's like, look, the community is probably going to still help you, but you would have done yourself a lot of good by not dropping off, by continuing to show up. Yeah, you're not looking for a job as somebody else is. Do them a favor, help them out, help them make connections. That kind of stuff is going to come back to you in the future. So yeah, those are the kinds of things I push on that I encourage with folks. When people reach out to me saying, hey, can you help me get a job? I say, not really. Like, tell me what jobs are open. And if I know somebody at the company, I'll introduce you. If I don't know somebody at the company, I'll tell you how to meet somebody at the company. But I don't keep track of what jobs are open. I don't believe in just mass applying their resumes, to 100 companies and stuff. I believe in building intentional relationships that will lead to opportunities. And if you can sell yourself at the interview, you'll be good.
And Barron, as you're speaking, it reminds me of something I think, and you just gave it off at the very beginning. I think most military members know how to do it. The problem is the paradigm shift. So let me explain. One of the things you said was you grew up, going to Germany, Texas, Idaho, different places. And when you get to those places, you got to start brand new because you don't know anybody in the area. So my argument there is, as a military member, you have moved around the world, probably if you've been in 20 years, and you've gotten to these places where you may not know the language, the culture, whatever it may be, but you have to figure out your way, how to go to the outside the military base and enjoy the area that you're in and get to meet people and so forth. So my point with that is they've learned those skills along the way, particularly when you've had to go to places you've never been to or know anyone or the language or the culture. So there's an opportunity to do that. You bring those skills already to the table. But you did mention one thing at the very beginning that I'd like you to elaborate a little bit on, not specifically about what happened to you, but just some advice for them to consider and for organizations too to consider. Something you talked about was one of my first experiences I got out. It was not a good experience. I can relate to that. I thought it was a great job until I got into it. Then I realized this is not for me. Not only that, sometimes the manager is not the right one. I just wrote a book called The Boss, Behaviors of Smart Supervisors. And I talk about what are the skill sets needed for those in management in this era going forward for organizations. So What insights did you learn along the way, particularly with that first experience? That was my words, not yours. Maybe not the best experience for you that you could share with some of these veterans to consider when they're making that move instead of just jumping out to the first thing that pops up.
Yeah, so it's informational interviews, right? Like again, it's collecting intelligence. So too many of us, and look, it can be a good way to do that transition because the transition initially is a little bit about like how do I continue to financially sustain myself and if I have a family, my family, right? So you're looking for something that pays along the same lines at least, and hopefully provides some professional growth and development. But I think by and large, most of us are like, we got a number in mind and we're just looking for something that kind of fits that. Um, and what it is that we've been given in the military, we've been given an occupational specialty, right? Infantry, artillery, communications, um, weapons repairman, avionics, pilot, and that starts to kind of define who we are and what we think our value and our maybe our career track should be. And some people love doing that, some people didn't, but we don't know how to really sell ourselves, so that's what we have to fall back on initially and stuff, right? And so I think some people make that mistake that, well, I did this in the military, so I'm supposed to do this after the military. And there's right. So there's a lot of things that are daunting and scary, but also incredibly exciting opportunities. And yeah, one of the exciting opportunities is the fact that you can do anything you want. Like you can completely rebrand, remake yourself. But you got to be smart on what the opportunities are. So again, informational interviews. So those can happen again through attending networking events and just seeking people out. Like one of the few things people do is make the ask, and most leaders will tell you, well, the reason I haven't told anybody that or help, like nobody's asked me. Like they really are. They're not going to just do it on their own whim. They need to be asked. So a CEO, a company president, an HR manager, a lot of more often than not, they'll be willing to have coffee with you, have a phone conversation with you, and you just say, "Hey, I'm in the military. I'm be getting out in the next year, 6 months, whatever. I'm trying to figure out what's a good fit for me. Could we have a conversation?" There's some great. There was previously a great virtual mentoring platform called Veterati. Unfortunately, had to fold down. There's new ones now. One's called Post Veterati. Another one's called Mill Mentor. I believe there might be a third one that's been established. But these are great virtual platforms for veterans and spouses that get connected to mentors out there who it's not really mentoring. It's just that it's having that informational interview. But take the time, especially before you leave the service, to learn about the different industries that are out there, learn about the differences between small companies, big companies, learn about the town or city you're interested in going to, learn about types of roles. What does it mean to be business development? What does it mean to be sales? What does relationship management mean? So there's some titles out there that you might at first think, that's not me. But then you realize, you know what, maybe it is. Like, I think sales is one of those things that a lot of veterans cringe at. I'm not going to sell anything. Well, you sell every day. You're in the military. You have to sell your bosses on a plan you have that you want to do, or when you're putting in a leave request, you're selling. Hey, give me the time off and everything, right? So there are really infinite opportunities, possibilities out there, but you're not going to start to find ones that fit you unless you really like cast this wide net of curiosity, start figuring out who out there might be able to give you some answers, and just collect information. And then as that's coming in, it helps you start to narrow down the field, role, industry, location that you want to focus on. And then you can start having much more meaningful conversation with folks, start making sure that you're connecting with managers within the right companies and stuff based off of that. But when you're just popped out, you didn't do anything to prepare, and you're like, oh crap, I got to get a job, and you're sending out the same resume to 100, 200 companies, you're going to have zero return, and you shouldn't be surprised by that.
Yeah, thanks for that. One other thought you reminded me of, when I first got out of the military, I was doing leadership development in the military, and then I got out and went to a utility to do similar work. And we were helping the culture shift from autocratic to participative. And I remember asking in one class, so why are we doing this? And they said, well, because we don't want that military mentality in the workplace, in this workplace. And so I asked, how many of you have been in the military? Not one. Most of them could have been my dad because I was younger when I got out. So I was the only veteran. And the point I had to make to them was, you know what? I've seen in my short time out in the civilian world more autocratic managers than I've seen in the military. So the reason I share that with the audience is because you have to remember you have a reputation, a brand, a military reputation, good, bad, and different. Some people think, oh, you're going to be autocratic and yell orders and this and that and the other. That's not necessarily so. When you're in combat, you don't have time to ask, to be asking permission. You got to bark out the orders. But outside of that, your last 10 years that you talked about, you're more in an administrative role. It's a little bit different environment. So to anyone listening, you need to remember that there's a reputation, a brand, a perception of what military members bring in. Many times good, depending on the company, but sometimes reserved, not sure what's this person going to bring in here. So I just wanted to put that as a backdrop. Now I got a couple of more questions to close this out. What do you see as the future of work when you consider AI, remote hybrid opportunities, the whole workforce psychology and workforce evolution that's taken place? What do you see there as implications or issues that these transitioning members need to think about, along with that these companies that could benefit from them?
Yeah, I mean, this is just Barron's right personal opinion observations. I have no HR credentials and real insight, but I do see. So a lot of us want everything brings pros and cons, right? So a lot of us veterans, I think they want to be able to move back home, whether it's their home or their spouse's home, and that means often more rural America, or at least not in the right next to the cities and stuff. So that for remote work now offers this incredible opportunity to still be employed by a large firm, a dynamic firm, something that offers a lot of professional growth without needing to relocate, to some big city or suburb area and stuff. So that's for some folks, that's a big win, But what do you give up for the remote work? Like if you want to be part of a team again, good luck, right? Like you're not going to have that dynamic of showing up to the office every day, interacting with folks, getting to know each other personally and stuff, right? Everybody's just a body that shows up for some online meetings and goes off and does their stuff. But that interpersonal relationship development is hard to achieve through remote work. So figure out a little bit what you're looking for there. It's always one of those grass is always greener, right? And people are like, oh, I love to just work from home and everything. But I personally, I get my better work done by going to the office. I'm in the office usually 4 or 5 days a week, even if I'm the only one there, because it just works better for me personally and stuff. Right, the AI piece, everybody needs to get smarter on what the AI tools are out there and how to utilize them. Some roles are just going to flat out get consumed by AI, but I think for the most part, if you learn how to enhance your role with AI, you'll be in a good position to maintain that role and everything. But like some things, right? Some things that are very administratively focused, like just churning out paperwork and so forth. Like, yeah, that's going to get AI is just going to take that over. Like one of those areas is curriculum development. I feel like I've come across, right? Like there are people in the past who that's what they did was they just cranked out curriculum, and now AI can do it just as easily and faster and stuff. And so those folks have to primarily find other opportunities and stuff. Right? It's kind of really interesting. Was what like 2 or 3 years ago, some of the highest paying and sought after roles were prompt engineers for AI, and these days they're basically not needed because the AI has developed so quickly in the most recent years that you don't have to design your prompt so systematically to get the right response out that you want and everything. But there's always been evolution and stuff, right? But it's just that it's going a little bit faster now. That is a thing, right? So I'm a Gen X guy. So we're used to things changing, but not changing dramatically. Obviously, the millennials and Gen Z and stuff, they're used to things going a lot faster. And so I do think that those veterans will adapt a little more. But this is one of those things I'm still wrestling with, and I'm figuring out how to explain it better to the veteran community and the civilian community. And part of that is I think as America keeps going forward, there's more and more of a gap between those who serve and those who didn't serve. And it's because by and large, the way things are done in the military, the culture, the mission focus, it's been the same for decades, right? And it feels like that there's a shift away from that kind of stuff in the civilian workforce. And so whereas, decades ago, I think, especially as you had a percentage of the population that has served, more of them could relate to veterans and stuff. You're just having, our veteran populations continue to shrink against the size of the overall U.S. population, and the dynamics of what it's like to serve in the military versus civilian life is changing. And that means is more and more you just become a changed, different person through military service, whether you do 2, 4 years, or 40. It changes you. It turns you into a different person, I think a better person. But that's one of the reasons why this life after military is so hard. It is very difficult to relate to everybody else. That's what the military is done to you. But what does the military provide you? Because I think when you talk about employers maybe being hesitant and stuff, right? There's some of that stereotypical stuff out there about, the brashness and roughness and like coarseness of language and maybe attitude and actions. But what military members have is they have, again, they're mission focused, they're loyal, they know how to do centralized planning, decentralized execution. They just want to be pointed in a direction and told, I need you to do that, go do it. And they will do it gladly and stuff. I think what a lot of them are missing is that feeling like they're wanted, by an organization, by a company.
Yeah.
And if you can show them that you're hiring them because you want them as a veteran, as a team member, you'll get their loyalty and their commitment. But if you're hiring them just to be another number, just to make it look like you're doing a nice thing to hire veterans, but you're bringing them in bottom level, low pay, they're going to see through that and be unhappy and take off later.
Yeah, Barron, and that's obviously what I write and talk about and speak to in organizations about is how in the era of AI can you create an HI organization, a human intelligent workplace where people like going there, where they become a great place to work and so forth. And just to close this out, you heard Barron speak to his piece about his belief on his philosophy on remote work. Just for the listener, I want you to get a different perspective. I've been working remote for the last few years, but I love it. I'm okay with that. So you have to come to, just like you heard Barron say, I'd rather go in the office. I'm okay not having to. As a matter of fact, my dissertation when I was working at Lockheed Martin was about virtual and remote work and leadership. So this was happening way before the pandemic. So it can be done, but to the listener, you've got to come to grips with how are you comfortable? What's your comfort zone? So to close this out, Barron, what's some a piece of advice you'd give to any veteran and a piece of advice you'd give to an organization when it comes to this, particularly on Veterans Day?
Yeah, find opportunities to collide, right? Go places you wouldn't have normally gone before. If you're a employer, seek out veteran, not events like a parade and stuff. Go to, like, if you're in the Orlando area, right? Because it's the area I know. You've got the Florida Association of Veteran Businesses. You've got Veterans Bureau Club Orlando. You've got AUSA, Central Florida Navy League, Central Florida Marine Corps Foundation, Veterans Entrepreneurship Initiative. You have all these organizations that hold monthly or bi-monthly networking events. Go to those. Go to those to meet veterans and learn more about who we are. And then same thing for the veterans. Don't go to just those. If you're looking to be in HR, go to SHRM events. If you're looking to be in program management, go to PMP events. Go find the industry or the specific credentialized sector that interests you and show up to their events and introduce yourself and get to know them, right? But we need to have both sides doing more of the cross-pollination and going out to each other's stuff and meet each other. What I like to talk about on the veteran side is again, the military culture changes you, and a lot of people feel lost afterwards because they lose that connection completely. And so going to veteran networking events or volunteer events puts them back in with those brothers and sisters they had and gives them kind of that feeling again. But I think there could be a danger of them doing nothing but that, right? And they almost become a recluse, only uh, being active within the veteran community. That needs to be like their patrol base, right? That's where you refit and rest and get ready to go back out. But you need to be spending the majority of your time out and about in the civilian world, for yourself and for the veteran community, to make sure there's a positive message out there about us, to help lay the ground, not just for you, but for others as well. Because it's always about setting the foundation, setting us up for success. That's what we do all the time in the military, and we should be doing that as well as veterans.
Thank you for that, Barron. So, for the veterans out there and on Veterans Day, and for any employer out there that may be listening, I hope this has been helpful and insightful for you. Here in a little bit at the end of this, you're going to get Barron's contact information. Plus, he's on LinkedIn. He's involved with several organizations trying to help veterans out. I'm part of one of those. But reach out to either one of us. At the same time, from my Human Intelligent Workplace and Dialogue, my intent is to help organizations become more human friendly, more human centered, more human intelligent, because in the growing era of AI, you're still going to need HI, the skills that we're going to need going forward. So Barron, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for your service. Again, hope that we can continue to partner up on these efforts and sort of reach back and help those individuals that are coming out and educate and enlighten organizations in the civilian sector. You've heard some of us, you heard us earlier to the audience speak about some organizations that are doing some great work out there. So look for those organizations that look for veterans, but not only that, because any other organization out there could use your help. So thank you again, Barron. I appreciate your help, your participation here today.
No, I very much appreciate it as well, Edwin. Thank you. And happy Veterans Day out there to everybody who's served.
Same here. Thank you. We're glad that you stopped by to visit. We're in the business of helping organizations in the growing era of AI become more HI, and that is become more of a human intelligent workplace. And we do that in a variety of ways. We can do speaking engagements. I can come in and speak to you either at executive retreats, at offsites, keynotes, things of that nature, to kind of share with you some of the trends that are taking place and what the implications may be for your organization. Sort of in a way, put a mirror up to your organization and say, these are the things that are happening. Are you ready for them? Are you doing something about it? So that's just one way. Another way we do some work with organizations is through executive coaching, helping from VPs to frontline supervisors, those to soon to be in supervisory, high potential individuals, help them in their development. Also do leadership and team development work. And along with that, we use instruments to help organizations from a consulting perspective help themselves, whether it's the Human Intelligent Workplace instrument or questionnaire to take a sense of, hey, how are we doing in this space? Also, organizational change readiness questionnaire. Are you ready for the changes? What are you missing based on some of this information? And lastly, we also look at leader behavior effectiveness questionnaires. How well are your leaders doing? How do they assess themselves? And how are the workforce assessing them too, whether it be 360 or others? So we're here to help, particularly in this ongoing changing era that organizations are facing, a time of uncertainty, a time where the workplace or the workforce is expecting different things. So hopefully you'll reach out to us and let us know how we can help you out. You can look at some of our information that we have out on our website, some of the various podcasts, some of the articles and videos that I've put out there. And hopefully those will percolate and create some thoughts and reflective moments to think about. Maybe we need to have a discussion with the Human Intelligent Workplace. Thank you very much.